I'm doing a lot of youth mentoring at the moment. So I do a lot of reflecting, obviously, on my own life. So this is probably one of the rawest, interviews I've done because I haven't really touched base on any of that. But because it's such a topic of conversation a lot at the moment, I sort of, happy to sort of open up about it. But so I used to get into a lot of fights because I just didn't know how to sort of either walk away from things or even control my emotions.
Welcome to It's Not About the Fight. I'm Ross Cameron, martial artist, coach, and lifelong student of combat sports. I've had the privilege of being able to work with some of the best in the industry, UFC champions, world-class jiu-jitsu competitors, and elite martial artists from all over the world. Now I'm bringing those lessons to you. Let's get to work. Our guest today is a pioneer of Australian combat sports, 2 times world boxing champion, one of the first Australian women to make it on the global scene in MMA, Arlene Blencowe. Thanks for coming on, Arlene.
Thanks for having me on.
So I've got a few little questions for you. So what I want to start off with is, you're known as being quite a tough fighter, mentally tough, physically tough. Where does that come from? Does it come from your childhood, bringing up? Where does it come from?
Yeah, no, it comes from, a very tough life, I guess. A tough childhood, tough teenage years. I've experienced a lot in my lifetime. I've been mistreated, I've been disrespected, I've been, a lot of different things, occurred in the first half of my life before I started fighting. And a lot of that, I guess, was caused pent up anger. And I'm very, very lucky that I guess I found fighting and an avenue to channel all of that. And also through my martial arts, actually probably evolve and grow. And I no longer have that like pent up anger and, pain, I guess, from the first half of my life. And grown as a person, but still managed to keep that fire that I use and need when I'm competing. But just channeled in a different way.
Yeah, it's interesting that lots of people have that grind that comes from a tough background, and you see it in boxing a lot, where the guys that can really box are from way down in the dirty streets, and they use it as a way to climb out of there, but they also have that mental fortitude because of all those problems.
Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't say, I definitely did have a lot of negative things growing up, but there's definitely part of me, I mean, there's a lot of positive things too. So I feel, for the first half of my life, I sort of focused on that negative too much. But then once you start healing from all of that, there definitely still was good things. And there's attributes from my childhood that I thank my mother for every day, like her work ethic and just that drive of getting things done. I definitely have took a page out of her book. And my work ethic in the gym definitely is part testament to, how she raised me. And just that non-stop work attitude, just get it done.
So what first drew you to boxing?
Well, going off the back of, I guess, that rough upbringing and childhood, I had a fair few fights growing up in my teenage years. I was known to be a little bit of a tough person, but I wasn't very good with, sticking up for myself verbally. Someone would annoy me or, criticize me or put me down or whatever. Next minute, I'd just be in a fist fight with them. It's funny because I'm doing a lot of youth mentoring at the moment. So I do a lot of reflecting, obviously, on my own life. So this is probably one of the rawest, interviews I've done because I haven't really touched base on any of that. But because it's such a topic of conversation a lot at the moment, I sort of, happy to sort of open up about it. But so I used to get into a lot of fights because I just didn't know how to sort of either walk away from things or even control my emotions.
Yeah, it's the learning the processes of how to handle things. And as a teenager, fight or flight comes in quite often.
For sure,
yeah.
And well, just even learning, for now, I mean, there would be no situation that would ever cause me to get that worked up that you'd see me in a fist fight at the local shopping centre on the side of the road or anywhere. But it's just obviously through martial arts, I've learned how to control my emotions and everything like that. So not much at all gets me worked up these days. So, so I always thought I was a bit of a tough girl growing up, and I had this massive life change at 26, and it sort of made me reassess sort of where my life was going and, what I sort of wanted to do and things like that. And, I've said this in plenty of other interviews, representing Australia at the Olympics was always a childhood dream of mine. I sort of I was driving along one day and I heard that women's boxing had been introduced into the London Olympics back in 2012. So this was end of 2008. I'm driving along and I was like, that's it. I'm just going to go to the Olympics for boxing, thinking it was that easy. In saying that, obviously, like the natural fighter in me, definitely, I was pretty close. Had some really good fights in boxing and whatnot, but I obviously didn't make the Olympic team. And I guess the rest is sort of history from there. And my path sort of changed direction. I turned professional, and then MMA came into the mix too. But
so, what then got you into MMA, from boxing to MMA? To me, I grew up in judo and jiu-jitsu, and I did karate, and so it all sort of mixed to me anyhow.
yeah.
But for a boxer to go, I've got to go learn how to do grappling.
Yeah, honestly, the idea had been given to me. So I'd been boxing as an amateur, and you're pretty active as an amateur boxer. There's local shows all the time. You've got tournaments, Golden Glove state tournaments, you're busy. So, some periods there I was fighting, every weekend for like a 3-4 week period. So I loved that I was training and had something to look forward to. And then you turn professional and it's a whole different story because
No one
you
wants to
don't get
fight you.
fights. No. So, I had that first fight, and then it had been I think like 6 months and nothing was on the mix. And, you're in the boxing gym every day training, and it's really hard to keep that sort of motivation and the discipline up. And especially in those early years. Yet obviously I'm used to it now. I have to be. But and my coach at the time, it was, with the Ronda Rousey era, MMA was picking up here in Australia. And he said, why don't you look at, studying MMA? And I was like, oh no, the idea of jiu-jitsu and wrestling and judo, like that close body. It wasn't. And obviously too, that was like at the time when I was still one of the only females at the gym at any time. So it's just, it did not appeal to me. And then he sort of twisted my arm a little bit. And he said, it'd be good to like cross training for you, just give you something a little bit different to work on. And I thought to myself, the monotony of boxing where you're running, skipping, shadow boxing, it's all, I understand more so later on in my life now that it is an art, and it's not that you just learn something. But back then I was like, well, I can't learn much more in boxing, which
Yeah,
you
it's the
can.
polishing the stone bit, right?
So, in the January of 2013, I started my first like jiu-jitsu wrestling sessions and literally scraped the surface of even learning any of it. And then before I knew it, in April, I was matched for my first MMA fight on the Fight World Cup show on the Gold Coast. And
Who
that
was
was my
that? Who
first.
was that against? That was against one of Kerry Dunn's girls, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Cara Purcell.
Yes, I know Cara very well.
Yeah. So, I'd never even stepped foot inside a cage at that stage because we trained in a gym that didn't even have a boxing ring or anything. But yeah, it was a crazy thing. I remember it was my 30th birthday weekend. I turned 30 on April 11th. And I was sitting in the sauna cutting weight. Yeah. And then, stepped inside the cage for my first time and got my arm snapped off.
Cara's pretty good on the ground. I've watched her fight Fiona Muxlow back in the day.
Yep. She was
And
the
that
first
was
Australian to fight.
and that was such a close fight even back then. And I was like, oh, okay,
No,
good
Cara was
skills.
good. I remember hitting with her right hand, and she did a backflip on the cage. I went back and rolled her, and I just rushed in with that killer instinct. And literally seconds later, I'm up against the cage with my arm getting snapped off, and I was like, "Wow, how did that just happen?" So, and that, I guess the rest is sort of history with there. Like I was just hooked from like that first, I guess, disappointment in losing. I was like, didn't want to leave it there. I just wanted to keep going. And 4 weeks later, I was back in the cage again. And
Yep.
I had 8 pro MMA fights in that first year in 2013, which is correct.
And that's extremely hard, even for guys to get 8 pro fights, especially in some sort of local scene, let alone a lady trying to get those sort of fights. The women's pool is quite shallow, it's did a good job.
Well, it was a big thing, and it's interesting looking. Like, I mean, that I'm from the era of Jessie Jess, Megan Anderson, Janae Harding. Like, we were all on the local scene together,
and you look at them all now. Like Jessie Jess has been in the UFC. They Harding, Bellator, Megan Anderson. They're all done very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
and it was interesting that first year of MMA, though, I was still taking it as a side sport. I wasn't even serious with it. I didn't care about my record. I was just happy to be competing. So I was still just a boxer doing MMA. And
Just having fun doing something different.
yeah, pretty much. And I mean, in 2013, like I said, I had the 8 pro MMA fights, but I also had a boxing world title fight. And that's when I won my 2 world titles. And that was literally 2 weeks before I fought Jessie Jess. So it was just a crazy busy year, but I loved it. And then the next year I got signed with Bellator, and it's been crazy.
And on Bellator, you've gone and fought people like Chris Cyborg and things like that. How do you mentally prepare yourself for those sort of matchups, and how do you deal with a loss like that?
To be fair, my whole career, I've put myself in situations that just have allowed me to not be scared. So, like I've told this story multiple times. So my very, very first fight was actually a full a Muay Thai fight, and I actually thought I was having a boxing fight. So a week out of the fight, the head coach came over and he said, "How come I haven't seen you working on any big kicks? Why have you only been punching?" And I sort of looked at him and I was like, "I've got a boxing fight in 2 weeks or whatever." And he goes, "No, you don't. You have a Muay Thai fight." And I thought he was joking. And no, sure enough, it was a Muay Thai fight. And this is, 16 years ago now. So it wasn't padded. There was no shin pads, headgear. It was a full contact, elbows and everything, Muay Thai fight. And here's little old me that's only been training for a few months for boxing.
Here we go, full Thai rules. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, I went in there and I lost by split decision. I remember after the first round, obviously the clinching, like Muay Thai is just a crazy sport. I still think it's crazy now. And credit to like the Muay Thai fighters, they're tough as nails. But I remember after the first round, I went back to the corner. I just said to my coach, I'm like, "No, I'm not going back out there." And he turned me back around. He goes, "You're not quitting." Anyway, I lost by split decision, but just stuff like that. There's obviously been heaps of other times I've had injuries where I've torn my MCL and ACL before a fight. I've completely torn the ligaments in my ankle before another MMA fight. But times where I could have taken what I call it like the coward option, but I've just I was going to say manned up, but that's not really the right word in today's. I've shown courage in moments where I could have chose the coward's option, and those things have taught me along the way. That's what gave me the courage, I guess, to be able to step in there with someone like Chris Cyborg. It's like, well, I've never turned away from a challenge. Yeah, obviously the first fight, she completely destroyed me. But the second fight, I humanized her the next fight camp, because at the end of the day, everybody's beatable inside that cage.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I didn't beat her the second time, but I dug deep in that fight and just showed that.
Yeah, I remember watching that. That was a great fight.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I guess I have a lot of moments throughout my fighting career that has shown me just how durable and tough, and a lot of things that you just don't show on social media too. Whereas I've just
people don't understand it. It's the top 10% that makes the huge difference in the fight game, and every little thing you do to make sure that is mentally tough and mentally hard, and like you said, humanize them, and you've got to do all those things and stick to your routines so you're not thinking outside the box and having all those other thoughts. Just keep doing it what you want to do, and then put yourself in that mentally strong position that you can go forward.
Yeah. I feel like for a lot of my career, like I said, I've been, I've been doing this for a long time too. But for the first decade of fighting, I was just so focused on that end goal, becoming a world champion, getting to here, and it was just a lot of added stress. And then the last few years, knowing that I am coming towards the end of my career, which it's no secret, I'm 42 now, so it's only a matter.
You are so old.
You sound like my
60
kids
soon.
now. But no, obviously I'm closer to the end of my career than I am the beginning, being a realist. The last few years I've just been like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy these years, being on the mats with my teammates, being overseas in, world-class gyms, training with world-class coaches, and, being more grateful that my body can do this. Like, I'm doing things now that people 20 years younger than me can barely do. And just enjoying it. And that was my real focus in my last fight, which is now almost 12 months ago. When I went over to Ireland and fought, I just it was actually before I went to Ireland. It was when I went to America and did fight camp. It's like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy being here for 6 weeks and enjoy being in the trenches, pushing myself to the absolute limits. Yeah, the whole process was just really more enjoyable. And I thought, damn, I wish I'd had this mindset for the last 16 years instead of adding all this pressure.
Well, it's the martial arts saying, when the student is ready, the master will appear. Your mindset's not there until you've had all those experiences to get your mindset there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you do get there, you go, oh, that was what it was really all about.
Yeah. No, well,
Yeah.
that's it. I kind of think now, I'm stepping more into a coaching role, setting up a lot of avenues for, life after fighting so that I'm ready to hit the ground running rather than having this sort of period of time where I'm just in
Yeah, limbo.
limbo.
We
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
we
I'm,
and as professional fighters, we all have that moment in time where we go, yeah, okay, I'm retiring, but maybe I could have one more, maybe two more. But it's that if you have that plan in place and you can develop the plan, then it's not so much of a oh, okay, I need to fight or I want to fight.
yeah,
You've already
yeah.
made the decision. You've got a plan in place, and you're able to move forward.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me too is just making sure that I have things in place, but just also like I'm enjoying home life and just the simple life and stuff. I think as fighters, we're always chasing that rush and that high of being, in the spotlight and fighting and being relevant and stuff. But it's just being, I guess, at peace with the other part of your life. And obviously, you see a lot of professional athletes really struggle with mental health post career. So it's just making sure that I put things in place so that I'm not struggling with missing the spotlight too much, even though the spotlight's actually never been the thing that's actually
Excited you?
no,
Yeah.
it's I don't like being the center of attention or all the focus beam. I'm more than happy just to sort of sit in the back and be quiet. So it's the actual fighting itself. Yeah, it's a funny one actually. A few people have asked me. It's not really the fighting because I actually don't like don't like the fight itself, but yeah,
It's
that
it's the competition and the camaraderie that goes with the training and all those
yeah.
bits that make martial arts so special, that a lot of people from outside don't get how special it actually is.
No.
So as a mum, how do you manage all your time and responsibilities and keeping motivated and doing the mum job and doing the fighter's job and trying to balance it all out?
I'm very lucky now, I guess. Life is a lot easier. Like my daughter, she's 24 now. She's out of home and at uni and that. And my son's 17, almost 18. So the hard yards of being mum are definitely like, it's still moments. But like I look back at when I first started MMA and the kids were only little, like my son was still in nappies and my daughter was 8 years old. So it's just, yeah. And I was a single mum back then. So, I've got a very stable, happy relationship now. But like back then, I was working a full time job. I was still, earning some money on the side because a full time job when you're a single mum does not pay all the bills. Still training and then obviously started MMA. So it was non-stop. The kids were in afternoon sports, but it was 4:30 in the morning, get up, do a 5K run, 5 a.m., do a boxing session till 6 a.m., get home, get the kids ready for school, do school drop off, go to work. I'd sometimes train in my lunch break, depending on what else I had. I'd do school pickup and then I do afternoon PTs. The kids would already have their like dinner packed and their homework packed, and they'd do that at the gym. And it was just this non-stop cycle. And I might be lucky to get a 20-minute power nap in the afternoon. But yes, from 4:30 a.m. till 10 p.m., I could tell you exactly what I was doing for every minute of the day.
Yeah, because you have to be so planned.
Yeah, yeah, and it's to be fair, in these later years now, I have the luxury of not working a full-time job. I still have avenues of income just because you don't want to be relying on fight money when you're only fighting once a year. But as soon as I start thinking or, having this moment where I'm like, oh, life's tough or whatever, I'm like, Arlene, this is not tough compared to
You've been
what
there.
you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My kids grew all up around the fight scene. So like my eldest daughter, she's sparred Jesse Jess and she's done. And when the UFC boys come to town, they hold pads for her and do that. She's now 28 and a lawyer. So she doesn't talk to dad anymore. Yeah. It's interesting to watch kids that grow up around it too. They have that drive because they've seen how much effort you've had to put in and do all
100%.
those things. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it makes well-rounded humans, which I
I
think is a
definitely do
special thing.
too. Both of my kids, there was a period of time there where it looked like they might be interested in getting involved in mixed martial arts, but I already know that both of them in their own right mind have learnt so much by just watching me in the gym and just juggling everything that I have done. They both have a very strong work ethic in their chosen fields. But yeah, no, it's been a nice progression. I love that I've taken so many photos along the way, because like some of my favorite photos of, being me in the gym or me post fight and the kids, and they're so little, and I was like, God, looking at them now, my son's 6.5 foot tall and
Yep.
6'5". I'm sorry, yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
6.5.
Yeah. They look,
And
they
then
look, they look down at you.
yeah, but they both have so much respect for me because they've seen how hard I've worked over the years to get to where I am now.
So, as a trailblazer for women's MMA, what have you seen change in the sport, and where do you think it needs to improve to get more women in the sport?
Oh, like I said before, it's been amazing. So often I was one of the only girls training in the gym. And now just to see so many up and coming girls, and they're good too. Like, they're starting at such a young age. I was, almost a little bit envious. I see all these young girls now. I think, oh, imagine if I got to start grappling at that young age. Like, I was at my jiu-jitsu gym, Sydney West, mixed martial arts, the other week, and it was before my class. I was there a little bit early, and I looked up at the kids' class, and the girls outnumbered the boys. The class was made up about 75% of girls. And I just watched the class and I just had this big smile on my face because the girls were killing it. And they were like, for the few boys that were in the class, they were like, having it over them. But I just thought to myself, like, how great it is, because those boys, I said to the coach, those boys will never grow up involved in like a domestic violence situation. They will have the utmost respect for females, but just because of, it's just what mixed martial arts does. Like it, and those young girls will also have like a level of respect for themselves and never carry themselves in with like a victim mentality. Like, it's just, the power of mixed martial arts, like, was just, I could just saw it on the mat. So I could just see how much it's going to help those like kids, all of them, when they grow up.
Yep. I've got the same in my kids' jiu-jitsu class. I would have probably 70-75% girls, and the girls learn different to boys. I get that, but the girls are switched on. They're right. Okay, the boys are watching the bugs crawl up the wall, but the girls are okay. How do we do this? All right, okay, I've got it. I'm going to arm drag. I'm going to take us back. And they have this plan, and they're just going to work the plan.
Yeah.
That is so good for them to have that they know they can deal with any sort of pressure so long as they've got a plan.
Yeah. No, I'm a big believer that, like, I think that jiu-jitsu should be in schools as a program, because it just, I mean, if a simple move can help protect, especially a young female, from being assaulted or whatever, like I said, but it's more so the way they just carry themselves. Like, I even know myself, like us, touching base on my childhood, like I had a victim mentality. I was very quiet and shy and withdrawn, and definitely not the person I am today. And when you look at how people who prey on, females, they look for the vulnerable looking.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's what I'm doing a self-defense seminar this weekend. And that's part of the thing you talk to people about, is that how you walk, how you talk, how you stand, all those things make such a big difference, because of the predator is looking for the weak one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're also looking for the weak connections so that they can then do all sorts of manipulation and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right, because I can guarantee now I don't think someone would look at me sideways on the street and even think about like trying to attack me or anything. And it's almost like, I dare you.
I had one of the young guys say to me the other day, Ross, you don't look like you can fight. That's because I'm 60. I'm 60. No, I don't look like I can fight. But what have I done all my life? I've done all my life. I walked on the mats at 4 and I'm nearly 60. So all I have done is martial arts. So I can fight.
Yeah.
I'm
hoping that you never have to use it out in a normal everyday situation, but the idea that you have it in your back pocket if you ever need it. And it's the same thing for all these young girls. And to be fair, my thing is for the young boys too. If a boy knows how to fight, and this is because I run sessions at a correctional centre, and a lot of people think that they can fight better than they can. Especially men and young boys. And it's not until they get into a gym, into the ring, and they're having a crack and they realise that it's so much harder. And I just think that if more people did it, they would actually control themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they can't fight.
No.
So they're not going to put themselves into a situation where they can fight.
And that's one of the first learning curves you have, is that when you jump into the ring for the first time and you think I'm just gonna swing hard, and then suddenly the guy taps you and he moves out of the way, and you go, I was going to stand there, let me hit you. Come on. No, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to just keep punching you and moving. Oh, no, I can't fight.
Exactly. The only thing with these days, though, it's never really a one-on-one fight. There's just everybody, the groups, and then obviously they bring the knives in and stuff. So this is a whole different
Yeah,
ball game. So
there's so many people carrying steel here
uh,
in Queensland. It's not
yeah,
funny.
same
So
in
it's
Sydney. It's
yeah.
it's pretty bad. It was one of the talks at the other week at the correctional centre, and I was just like, "What happened with your kids? Like, why is there no one-on-one fights anymore where you just sort your issues out and don't involve weapons? And why does it have to be big groups?" I said, "Because you do realise that's a coward's way of fighting. Like, it's not that I'm condoning one-on-one fights, but I'd rather that than
Yeah,
just
but
gang violence or whatever."
and I'm going to say I'm a child of the 60s and 70s where it was all right. We're going to sort our problem out at the pub. We'll go outside. We'll have a blue. We'll go in and have a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a thing. That's not a
No.
thing anymore. And
But
yeah, it's
but the thing is, once you have a fight with someone, like, I mean, I can tell you, I've had 26.
well, I say to people that I have punched my best friends in the face hard
Yeah.
because I grew up fighting them week in, week out. So
Yeah.
it was oh, all right. I'm going to fight this guy. All right, it's tournament. So here we go. Bang. Yep.
Janae and I, when we fought each other on whatever show that was called, can't remember what it was called, but we fought each
Legends,
other.
legends.
Legends, that's it.
Yep.
The one that didn't pay me again.
Yeah.
Anyway, Janae was a last minute replacement. She was actually picking me up from the airport, and we were going to have dinner and get my hair done. And then next minute, I matched to fight her, and I was like, "Are you cool with that?" She goes, "Yeah, that's cool." So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I remember that fight because you just came forward and punched straight and hard, and she didn't really know where to go.
yeah, I'll never forget the sound that came out of her when I hit her. Like, I was like, oh shit. But yeah, I mean, all water under the bridge. Danae and I are cool. We've gone on, from that fight, she ended up getting a start with Bellator, and
Yeah,
you
well,
know,
she started her MMA career on my shows. So to see people that have started on my events and then gone all the way is good as a promoter to feel like you've helped that person on the way. I can't claim it. I can't turn around and go, "Hey, I started her career." No, she was just a fighter on my show. But it's amazing to watch them develop and go from when she first walked in as a fighter to where she's got to.
yeah.
Yeah,
But to
she's
be fair, I think anyone that actually has any respect for the sport, like, if without these local promotions giving you a start,
yeah.
same with me. If it wasn't for that, without the grassroots, you don't have the international exposure. So, the Fight World Cup, Eternal, Brace.
There's a word from the past. Haven't
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
storm damage down in Canberra.
yeah. Storm.
And
Yeah.
what's the one in Adelaide? That was the last one that I fought on.
Diamondback? Is it Diamondback?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, it
Diamondback.
wasn't called Diamondback though back then. It was something else, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So there's probably in Australia, and I would go if you take out the ones that have disappeared. So Fight World Cup's gone, Nitro's gone,
Nitro, I fought on Nitro as well.
and CFC's gone, XFC's gone. There's lots of shows that come and go, and even
Yeah.
myself, I'm still promoting, but I'm looking there going, I'm 60. This is hard work.
It is a lot of work to put a show on, and this is where
Yeah,
people don't understand that side of
but
things.
it's also why do I do it? And I sit back and think about that all the time. I go, why do I put on a show? And I put on a show because I want my people to have somewhere safe to do it, and that's why I get Peter Hickmon involved. Getting Peter involved so that we've got the good referees and good judging and making it as safe as possible. So we've
Yeah.
Mixed Martial Arts Australasia. Peter follows best practices from the UFC. I remember when some of the first MMA fights I went to in Australia, there wasn't a doctor. Yeah, check out the back. What do you mean?
Yeah.
People bombing up their hands, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So the industry's got way better over the time, and
Okay.
because we've got the grassroots, the standard of fight, and now we've got we've had Alex and we've got Jack and we've got Robert have all been champions out of Australia, and you've got Izzy out of New Zealand. So Australasia's doing great because we've got such strong, and I think because we've got such strong amateur grassroots stuff.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, like, the coaching's all gotten better too. The gyms have just grown. Yeah, the evolution of MMA in Australia the last 16 years has been amazing.
Yeah.
Just gotta wait for that first Australian UFC female champion now. And there's a few like coming up that I could see being, you know, the next champions. So
I saw you were at the announcement that PFL's coming to town.
yes.
So they're coming to Australia. Have we got any
Yeah,
dates? Have we
December.
got any info?
All I know is that they're coming. So I'm actually no longer with PFL. I signed with another promotion, GFL. So yeah, I'm just personally for me, I was there to sort of, yeah, obviously I'm one of the OGs of women's MMA, so always good to support. And PFL were awesome to work with when I first, you know, was with them last year when Bellator obviously merged with them. Devastated that Bellator didn't get a chance to come to Australia.
Yeah, and I like Scott Crocker. He's a nice guy,
Yeah.
organised, puts on a fantastic show, great with everybody. And PFL with Ray Sifu, like Ray's again a nice guy and a straight shooter, and you can't. It's you know, where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah, yeah. No, I was, and that's honestly one of the reasons I stayed with Bellator. I had opportunities throughout the years to sort of transition over to the UFC. I had a chance to go on the Ultimate Fighter when they did the featherweight division, and then another two separate
Yep,
times.
opportunities. Yep.
Yeah, but I stayed with Bellator because I was really happy with how the promotion looked after me, and obviously the ops team. I really enjoyed working with them, but it was very personal. At any time I could reach out to anyone like myself, not even just my manager. And you know, we had that sort of relationship, and you know, Scott was always awesome when he was at the shows and stuff, and would always take the time to come over and talk to us. And we weren't. I was never treated as just a number on the promotion, like I was treated as a person and a fighter.
Yeah, I'm friends with Frank Mayer, and Frank's said the same. He said that Scott Crocker's organisation treated you like part of the family.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what, as a fighter, that's what you want. You want that feeling that you're not just a number, that even win or lose, you're not just going to get kicked out because you've lost once or twice.
Yeah, yeah. And I never felt that. I felt like I was respected over the years and very fairly compensated, which was the other reason I sort of didn't go to the UFC because, you know, if I had gone over to the UFC, I would have started at the very bottom of the pay pool. And yeah, I was kind of like, more so because I'm an older athlete. Like, you know, if I was in my 20s and had time to really progress my career, you know, I probably would have gone the UFC option. But for me, it was kind of like, you know, I didn't know, you know, how long. I didn't actually think I'd still be going at this age. So here we are. But yeah, so it's good to see the PFL coming to Australia. The Pacific area is awesome because there is so much talent here that's getting missed on the international scene because at the moment everyone's so focused on getting to the UFC, but you know, not all of them are going to make it to the UFC, but they're still so talented. So for them to get onto the international scene,
yeah, I say that to my fighters. I go to them. Got to remember that UFC drops about 300 fighters every year.
Yep.
So if you want to make the UFC, that's great, but you're stepping onto the field part.
Yeah.
Then you need to stay there. And if you're not prepared to do the work to stay there, or you think that making it to it is making it, you've got the wrong mentality. You've got to, I've stepped on the field, now I've got to actually keep doing and performing and growing.
Yeah.
And that's the
you got to do
hard
something
part.
spectacular. Yeah, it is. You know, it's the best of the best. And sometimes even if you are performing, you can still get cut if you're just not that exciting fighter. And that was sort of something that I took into consideration because, yeah, as I said before, I'm not that person that really likes the limelight. So I'm not that star material. You know, you look at, I mean, I don't really like, you know, the attention and stuff like that. I'm not a
Conor McGregor.
well, yeah, and I'll never be that person.
Yep.
I'll get out and have my fights, and I just more so even with my social media and stuff, I prefer to tone it down and just show everybody that I'm actually like a normal human being and that I can be relatable. So I'm not this, you know, actress or whatever that's, you know, yeah. So I've like star material. So I've took that into consideration. I'm like, to be fair, I don't think the UFC and I are right because it wasn't just.
Yeah, I tell people that the UFC looks at things two ways. They look at you, the love me, hate me, I don't care, just choose equation. All right. You're either the girl next door, which they love, or you're the trashy mouth person that everyone hates. And they're going to go watch. And Paige Van Zandt is the classic example. Paige is the girl next door that everyone wanted to watch. And then you have somebody who's trashy mouth that they want to watch get beaten. And then they try and put them together. Sales fights.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like I'll never trash talk. It was funny. I've only ever trash talked once in a fight. and it was when I fought Jessie Jess. And it wasn't because I didn't like her or anything. It was just that my coach at the time was actually trying to sell the fight and build that like star material type thing with me. But it just was so against who I was as a person. And it looks silly. And then, I mean, Jessie Jess ended up tapping me out with a rear naked choke. So didn't I look like the idiot?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And when it's against your inner self,
yeah.
it never sits right with you. And so therefore you portray it wrong, and then it comes back to haunt you and all those things because it's not really you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've just been myself throughout my whole career, and never gone against sort of who I am as a person. And whether or not that's worked in my favor or not, at least, I
You're
haven't
true to
sold myself.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So how do you like mentoring with the correction boys?
I actually really enjoy it. Martial arts has given me so much in my career. Obviously, I've grown as a person. Never in a million years did I think that financially it would change mine and my family's life. So there's that. But it's also led me to what I think is my calling. Touching base on like my upbringing. I feel like what's that saying with God gives his hardest like tasks to the people that can, like, I felt like I endured everything that I did throughout my life, found mixed martial arts, became the person that I am. For me now to go and share it with other people to help them through their lives. So, there's a period of time, like I remember being a teen, where I just thought that, the world was against me, and that like, why is it so hard for me? And, why did this happen? This blah, blah, blah. But then the more that I'm sort of around other people, especially around other athletes that have achieved so much, you realize that like everybody has their own little story. Some've got worse stories than I do, but it's about stepping out of being like having that victim mentality and going out there and chasing a better life, and not just settling for sort of the cards that you've been dealt.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's super rewarding.
Yeah, I got picked on at school because I'm dyslexic, so I could spell and all the rest of it was awful, and writing was awful and all that sort of stuff. So I got picked on at school. And I can remember this is how I actually went from doing judo into learning how to strike, is I got picked on by the school bully. I threw him, put him in casket, and he bit the inside of my leg. And I went, I've got to go learn how to strike.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
wow.
Yeah. So then I went off to the local karate club, or Kempo Karate Club at the time. It was just up the road, and learned how to do that. And then I went on to Shotokan Karate, and then I went on to Taekwondo, and then I kept growing and just doing more and more, and got into fighting and traveled the world fighting and sleeping in gyms and having the best life, just because it's an incredible life that people aspire to the Conor McGregor sort of drive the Ferrari and do all that sort of stuff. I got more out of the fact that I slept in a dojo and showered under a cold hose and got to train and with some of the best martial artists on the planet. I got more out of that than I did out of any fame that came with anything.
Yeah.
And trust me, I was well before fame.
No, what an awesome story. And that's the thing, that's what martial arts is. Like everyone has their own, their own little journey with it. Some people take it further than others, but so for me to share like my story with the kids in the juvenile correctional centres, and then just try and, like, for me, my outlet was when I stepped into a boxing gym. So it wasn't initially to actually have a fight. It was just an outlet, like punching the bag, and just that positive outlet. So a lot of these kids don't have positive outlets. They don't even have like positive people in their lives. So they're just surrounded by drugs and alcohol and bits and pieces. So they kind of that's the path that they just are destined to take. So it's just introducing them to the idea that there's more out there, and there's more out there than just the little suburb that they live in. They're whatever postcode that they're in, and they're so loyal to the postcode and this and that. Like,
yep. And it's a big wide world, and there's so much to go out there. It's not funny. So with the looming retirement, what do you think you're going to do?
As in post-fighting?
Yeah.
I'm always joking with my partner. I'm like, I'm going to be that 50-year-old woman that's going to jump in the boxing ring and have a fight. No, so Yeah, there's definitely a few things in the pipeline. I definitely will continue my mentoring. So, like I said, I go into the correctional centres. I do actually have a program that I've started up in some of the high schools. More so, it's like prevention rather than cure. Like I'm trying, yeah, before they get into the correctional centres. But actually studying a girls program. Yeah, just trying to tackle this, curb the rate of the domestic violence and assaults that are happening at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. It's domestic violence is a huge issue.
Yeah, and it's just looking for the red flags earlier on and
Yeah, and
everything, like, as a
teaching people what they are. Like
yeah,
my partner, she had a very bad domestic violence situation with her last partner, and just learning the red flags, and when things are red flags, or when your gut tells you something, to be able to listen
yeah.
to it. Such a skill that people don't normally have. Yeah, it's
Well, it's crazy because yeah, like even started because I was in a relationship at a young age, and what you settle for at the young age, like you think it's okay, and you put up with the being spoken to poorly or whatever, but that eventually escalates. So yeah, it is looking for the red flags and just not settling at that age too. Like just the importance of them learning to grow and evolve as young people as an individual rather than yeah, there's plenty of time for relationships. But yeah, it's just so yeah, anyway, the program with the girls. I am next week about to have a meeting with have you heard of BroFit
yes,
down
yes,
here?
yeah,
Thomas
yeah, yeah,
O'Hooner's
yeah.
gym. And
Well,
then yeah, so
that's
that's
tougher. What are they? Kiwi boys.
yeah, yeah. James Tahoon obviously fought in the UFC
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
so they have a men's only gym down here. It's actually franchised now. So Richard Fogarty's got one up in
Yep.
Newcastle
Yeah, I
and
know
I think they're
Richard
opening
quite
another
well
one
too.
in Bankstown. But I love the concept of it. So it's obviously for men's mental health, targeting teens all the way up to like, older men because the suicide rate for men is those statistics are just as terrible as the domestic violence. Like it's just two subjects that are really, really sort of high up there that need to be addressed. So anyway, their gym's absolutely killing it. I love the concept of it, and I'm like playing with the idea of a females only gym. Same sort of concept, but it's just more so I will tackle obviously like the domestic violence thing, like to do self-defense classes and stuff, but it's just more so as adults, you get caught up in the daily grind of being family people and working, and it's just like you just need that place that you can go to that's
Have that sort of community support
yeah,
yeah.
but a lot of women, especially mothers that have let themselves go a little bit, they don't feel comfortable going into your mainstream gyms, especially with the younger girls today with their little crop tops and the booty shorts,
Yeah,
and
and
a
got to
bit
have the photo.
intimidating. Yeah, so it's not. I'm not appealing to that, and nothing against those girls, but they've already got a place to go and train. That's what I'm a female only gym, and it's just where you can come in and you're feeling, bring the kids along. Like, I mean, my kids grew up in the gym and I want the kids to be there because I think it's important for the kids to see, the parents training
Yeah,
and
and if they grow up seeing that you look after your body and you look after yourself and you do all the right things, they will do that. They will fall into that, and that's teaching them to be a responsible adult and provide for the community and all those sort of things. It's
yeah,
just so key.
yeah. So I think that's where I'm going. Obviously, running a gym is a very, very full-time job, and that won't be put into the works until I'm definitely retired because
That's why I've got grey hair, Arlene.
I don't want to be juggling training for my fights and running a gym because I'm 100% sort of person. So, once I'm going full steam ahead with an idea, that's what I'm doing. So I put things into place, but eventually I've got my foot in the door with managing some fighters. That's actually been put on the back burner at the moment for the same reason, because when you're fighting, it's a very selfish sport and it's all about me. And uh, I want to be 100% focused. So, when I'm a manager, I want to be a good manager, but that's something that I'll do as well. And yeah, eventually promote an all-female fight card down here in Sydney.
Like
But
it, like
yeah,
it.
I'm just one of those people. I've got like a lot of avenues, but it's all just streamed off being a mixed martial artist and what this has given to me.
So, if you could give yourself as a young girl with the dreams of getting into the high end of combat sports, give yourself any advice, what would it be?
Probably for me is just to believe in myself, believe that you belong there. And I spent too many years You know, I started training in backyard gyms before I went to my very first gym, and you know, I didn't have the greatest equipment or like the finances to have like all these fancy coaches or whatever. I just had people that helped me out to begin with, and then you'd look on the, you know, Facebook pages of like these other people that I'm fighting, and they're, you know, training at fancy gyms and this and that, and it's just like I never truly believed that I belong there. And then from, you know, circumstances throughout my life too, I just never, I think because of it, I just didn't think I deserved any of it. So I think just believe in it. Like, I mean, my work ethic was always there. My drive was always there. Like, I knew what I wanted and I knew I worked hard. But yeah, just believe. You know, it's funny. I've had all these big fights and I guess big results and stuff. But some of the stuff that was going on inside me internally, it's a God. It's a wonder. It would have been nice to see, I guess, if we could redo that with what I know now as a person, because God, I was fighting some mental hurdles getting into the cage or the ring in a lot of my fights, and then still was able to like pull out a good performance just through like sheer determination. But yeah, if I actually truly went in there and saw myself how a lot of people see me now, I still kind of struggle with that a little bit. Maybe I'm too humble for my own good.
Yeah, there's the, you know, that imposter syndrome where you, am I that person? Am I really that good, or am I? Oh no, I shouldn't. Yeah, it's hard to deal with it when you're a top level fighter. That people forget how much all those things come into play, and it doesn't matter if you're a tennis player or you're a fighter or whatever. If you're at the top level, the mental part is
It's
so
huge.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and everyone has to deal with it differently because we all have different brains and we're wired differently. What motivates you doesn't motivate me. What motivates me doesn't motivate you. And how you deal with pressure and how you deal with the person winding you up on the side or in your face or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, the mental side of it. And that's, I mean, for the last few years, I have been working with a mental coach. And actually, before I worked with a mental coach, I worked with a hypnotherapist. And it was more so earlier in my career, I used to think that I could separate me as an individual to me as a fighter. But the thing is,
Yeah, they're not, is
as
it?
a yeah, I'm the same person. So
Yeah.
I had to overcome a lot of, I guess, barriers that were holding me back, and it was just true because of a lot of, you know, the pain and bits and pieces from my upbringing and early adult years that held me back. Whereas now I can sit here and say, like, I definitely am still very a humble person, but it's like I sit back and I'm like, no. For the last 16 years, you have worked your ass off here. Things didn't just fall into place. They fell into place because you were prepared and were in that position to like receive that opportunity and then go for it.
Yeah. Everything comes to those who wait, so long as you work like hell while you wait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's exactly right. But yeah, no, it's the thing. It's a beautiful thing with mixed martial arts. Like it's yeah, the evolution. Like I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago, and I won't be the same person I am now as I am in 10 years' time. Like it's constantly, it makes you soul search and really strip back a lot of you of yourself.
And I can, as an older guy, I can say that I'm not the same guy I was when I retired from fighting. I retired from
Yeah,
fighting in 93.
yeah,
93 through to now. Every 10 years, I'm a different guy. I have different skills. I have different abilities. I've changed from being the fighting guy to being a
yeah,
coach to now I'm more of a coach mentor than I am actually a coach. Changes as I get older, what I want to get out of it and what I want to give out of it. So yeah, it's big difference.
yeah. And I mean that it's I like that evolution though, because you shouldn't ever be in the same spot that you were.
No, if you're
So
not, you're going backwards.
well, yeah, yeah. And to be fair, that's where a lot of society goes wrong. They just get stuck in this like
Yeah, rinse and repeat,
circle of
rinse and repeat,
yeah, and
rinse and
it's
repeat.
you're not doing anything to grow or test yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing that I like about fighting. You know, potentially having a bare knuckle boxing fight in July, and everyone's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Because it scares the shit out of me." Like it does. Like the one in Perth, yeah. I mean, it's not like this is still in discussion stage. I'm not doing it for nothing, that's for
Yeah,
sure. So unless if the money's not right, then that's why you won't see me on that card. But it's just a challenge. I can sit here and say later on that, you know, I've been in jiu-jitsu comps, wrestling comps, I've had Muay Thai fights, boxing fights, MMA fights. Ben, I've done it all. Like I've been the complete mixed martial art. I mean, obviously there's karate and judo and all that too, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you covered the spectrum.
for the most part. But it scares me. And that's the thing. Like, while I can do this, like, I want to keep challenging myself and testing myself. And that's probably the only thing post fight career. Like, I've got everything else, all my ducks in a row, but trying to find that thing that, puts a skip in my step, like
Yep.
that thing that
Just gives you the same feeling.
Yeah. I kind of joked the other day. I'm like, I'm going to have to start jumping out of an airplane or something. But I've already done that a couple of times. But it's just, you know what I mean? Like that thing that pushes you and makes you grow. And yeah, maybe it's just doing the hard, tough sessions in the gym that'll do that.
I say to people that I find soccer and rugby and all those things quite boring because they're quite slow compared to fighting.
Yeah.
And you go to get that feeling is really hard because of the fact that we do a sport that happens in milliseconds and it's
and it can change like that.
Yeah.
Like it can be going one way and then before you know it, like it's an edge of the seat type sport. But I definitely have things in place that I want to do, but nothing will compare. And I put in a post the other day, nothing will compare to what I'm doing right now.
Yep. So when you go to America to do your camps, you go to Jackson Wink. Jackson Wink have always seemed to have a really good bunch of girls around them, Holly Holmes and all the rest of them, but they seem to have that again, good gym culture. Is that part of the reason you like to go there?
Definitely. They do. I remember when I first started going over there, I was a bit worried because like any of these gyms where you've got international fighters coming from all over the world to a location, and obviously there's world-class coaches, Coach Wing, Coach Jackson, all of those fighters are wanting to impress the coaches. So I'm just like, oh, I'm going to get hurt here or something. But it's interesting because you don't really have those types of people that go there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Good culture.
Yeah, it's interesting because back in the old days, you used to go to some gyms and it was like, okay, which guy do we knock out, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you talk
we're here for a fight.
Yeah, and then you talk to the top end coaches now. Like I had Eric Nixick on recently, and Eric's like, "Oh no, we play a certain game so we can do it again and again and again." And I had Joe Lopez on again, and Joe's the same. We're just playing the game. We touch. No one's actually fighting. We save that for when we have the fight. And I think that's my belief as well. Is you want to treat it like a game. Because you're not winning the rounds, you're going to try and win the fight.
Oh, that's it. That's one of the biggest things. Like when I'm in the gym, I pretty much lose nearly every round that I'm doing, and it's crazy because then I get into a fight. Because that's one of the mental things that plays with me a little bit. Because I'm just like, oh, like last fight camp, I don't think I won a single round in sparring or like live matches. Then I was like, God, am I really getting too old for this? Because it starts messing with your head a little bit, as you're getting older. And then I got into a fight, and then I switched on, and my coaches was saying to me, you're supposed to leave it for the fight. There's no point in being in the gym fighting every week, and then by the time you get to a fight, you don't have anything left. Like you were,
or you're broken.
Doing what needed to be done. Yeah, and then you leave your fight for the gym. Leave your fight for the fight. So I was, which is very true because if you're heading into a sparring session, you know that you're going to be in for a fight. It's kind of like, which makes you also realise why some of these fighters are sort of getting injured before their fights. And whatnot. It's just going too hard.
And as a promoter, I get it all the time. You'll have a fight card the other week where I had 15 fights all booked. And I lost 6 fights on the weekend.
Oh, my gosh.
And you just go, oh, okay. And I'm lucky because my facility has the cage here, so we're able to do the events in the cage. So I go, all right, we'll postpone it a few weeks and I'll get a few more fights back up. But if I was a promoter that was out in a venue, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Which it makes you wonder too, and this goes back off like what I said about having courage. Like it makes you wonder how, like you hear some of the pullouts and you're like, that was a little bit of a weak excuse. So everyone wants to have this fight, and then it gets closer to the day and they just can't handle those nerves or whatever.
Yeah, we had the joke that sort of someone's broken their cartilage or they've broken a toenail or yeah. But and you're right, you've got to have that mental fortitude to face those fears, but whether or not
that's it. It's a fine line. There's definitely times I probably should have pulled. Like I've never pulled out of a fight. If I've signed the contract, the fight's always gone ahead. So I've always just had that mentality. Just because early in my career I had so many fighters pull out, and it's disheartening, and it's just annoying too. Like I've had a girl drive home after the weigh-in.
As a promoter, I've had them pull out within half an hour of the main event. I've had them miss weight by 100 grams for a title fight and pull out of the fight.
Oh my goodness.
After I'd flown, it was actually on one of the Varkey brothers. So I'd flown one of the Varkey brothers in for a fight, and guy pulled out on him. And I've had guys sit out the back and just not walk out. I've had guys do runners down the back street because they heard something about the guy they're going to fight. Okay.
And these are like, it's funny, and I get it. Like, I mean, this is the equivalent, like, this is modern day warfare. Like, you know, this is the closest thing to going to war for us. That's like, but the thing is, like, I mean, touch wood, apart from like a few of the incidents, we're not going to die in there. Like, we all have our medicals, you know, it's a controlled environment.
Yeah, and it's as safe as it can possibly be at the moment. Yeah.
100%. Like, obviously there's incidents, like, and people need to, you know, terrible weight cuts and whatnot. But like, for the most part, those who actually regulate their weight cuts and everything, like, and go to get the doctor's medicals done and look after themselves, like, it is a safe sport. But yeah, when you hear stories like that, you just think, gosh. And it's like, my partner says to me all the time, he's like, you got bigger balls than half the guys. And it's funny because, like, yeah, when I hear stories like that, I'm thinking, these are men. Like, these are people that go home to their, like, wives and families.
Yeah, I talk about some of the girls that I've taken through to fights, and I say to the guys, you got no idea. Like, out the back, I have had to physically restrain one of the girls from going out to try and kill her opponent before the fight really starts, because she's ready. It's on now. I'm ready to go. And then I've had boys crying out the back, throwing up in buckets and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you need some hardening up. That's for sure.
In saying that, in their defense, like, all the years that I've been fighting, and it's funny, like, I've done some coaching for like the black tie boxing events, you know, the corporate events, and or I'll do, like, say, guest speaking or something. I'll come in, then I'll look around the room at like the females that are signed up, and I just think, what's their story? Because, like, yeah, any female that steps into like a combat sport, we all have a story, whether it's we've been hurt by someone, or we've been, like, you know, we've been hurt, or we just have like a little switch that needs to be flicked, because it's not a normal thing. Girls do girly things. So we all have a few little screws loose in our heads. So yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, we might leave it there, Arlene. I'll let you get back to your busy day. Thanks for jumping on.
Clients. But yeah, sorry it's taken so long to
all
get
good.
This
All good. Trust me, I get it. Thanks for listening to It's Not About the Fight. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and keep up the hard work on and off the mat. Stay tuned for my next chat with another top coach or